Hi everybody, Simon Hudson here with McDonald Realty on, it's April the 12th today. It's a Friday, April the 12th. Beautiful British Columbia. As you can see, the sun is out, so my face might be a little bit dark in the images, but I don't think you guys care to see my face. You're more worried about the information at hand. And if we look at the Squamish market specifically, I'm going to do that first because this is a bit of a longer one than I'm normally going to do, but I do want to make sure that I'm covering everything. And that is to say that Squamish market, we have 197 listings currently on the market. We're approaching that 200 level. We do need to get up to 250 for a real truly typical Squamish level of inventory. However, cresting over the 200 will be interesting. We're on pace to do that probably by the end of next week. We had 15 new listings in 7 days and 8 solds in 7 days. What was interesting about the solds is the solds are coming in about 3% below the asking price. There was one property that sold at the asking price, but we're no longer getting above. Now, another thing that makes that interesting is that the sales to active ratio has come down quite a bit. And the sales to active ratio is now sitting at 0.14. That indicates that we're in a balanced market, but it's just come off of 0.10, and anything below 0.12 or 0.12 is deemed to be a balanced market. Below 0.12 is deemed to be a buyer's market. So we were actually in buyer's market territory. So this is interesting because it's something we haven't seen for quite some time, at least for not an extended period. But I do think we're kind of getting there where that's going to start to happen a little bit more. Prices, as I said, 2 to 3% below the listing prices, what things are selling for. And why that matters is because it was only a few months ago that things were starting to sell at the asking price, and we were starting to see, we still had a few multiple offers. They're becoming fewer and farther between. So I think we're getting into this where there's going to be a little bit more downward pressure on maybe not prices so much. We might see a little bit of a pullback, but not a massive pullback. But that might be a bit of a fault of what I wanted to talk about now. And so we are sitting in a situation where the economy is really on a knife's edge. And what I mean by that is we are definitely at the point where the economy has gotten, the government doesn't know what to do. If they're going to increase interest rates or decrease interest rates, whether it's the Bank of Canada or the FOMC, they're both indicating that they would love to let you know that they're going to reduce interest rates, but every time they talk about it, they say, well, we're going to wait for more data to come in before we actually start reducing rates. And they can't, because if they start reducing rates, inflation is going to go crazy. And if inflation goes crazy, we're in more trouble. So this is the conundrum they're in, and they don't really have much of a choice. I went over a little bit about the interest rates in my last video. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch that. There's a good descriptor on why that all works the way it does. But on top of that, the stock market, and I wanted to show those of you that are watching the video on YouTube, you're going to be able to see a little bit more of the stock market stuff. But we've been sitting in what I call a parallel channel in the stock market for a little bit over 2 months now. And when that happens, if you get a break below that level, so on the, let's just use the SPY for example, or the Qs. I've got the Qs up here on my computer. That's the NASDAQ. And if the NASDAQ breaks below 433, there's no stopping it all the way down to about 410. That's a massive drop in the stock market, which is going to cause a reduction in people's wealth, or at very least the wealth effect. People won't feel as wealthy because their portfolios will be down. Now, on the other flip side of that coin, if instead the market goes up above 450 on the Qs, again, we could talk about the SPY if you wanted to, or we could talk about the S&P index, but right now I'm talking about NASDAQ. If the Qs index, the QQQ goes above 450, then it could be off to the races. And if that's happening because interest rates are lower, or the speculation is that interest rates are going to have to go lower. That's kind of where we're at. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's a big thing. Now, the other things that are going on are massive right now geopolitically. We've got the issues going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip. We've got Ukraine is still an issue. The Ukraine-Russia conflict has not, it's not gone away. It's still out there. And then in November, you've got the U.S. election. So all of those things together, and let's face it, the U.S. election is like pick the worst candidate. It's just a mess. I mean, the geopolitical tensions and the issues that are going on, even in China, are so strained right now that anything could break and cause a massive impact on the Canadian economy, which in turn affects housing prices. So I think you need to realize that those are the potential things you need to watch. So keep an eye on the stock market, understand what's happening, watch what's happening with the interest rates, listen to the words of the people like Tiff Macklem, listen to what he's actually saying, listen to what Jerome Powell is saying, and find out how many times they say, we'd like to reduce the interest rates, but we're just going to wait for more information. And when they say that, they're actually saying they can't reduce the interest rates. So keep that in mind. I don't think they're going to increase interest rates. They don't have to try to bring inflation down right now, but we're probably stuck in a point where inflation is going to be running at 3.3, 3.4, 3.8. And that's going to be tough for people to become accustomed to. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the prices. I know this hasn't been just about real estate, but I think it's important that we really look at everything. Going back to the Squamish market, I will say that the properties that have sold, or the properties that have been interesting for people to look at, have typically been below $1 million. There, in the last 14 days, there has only been, one property in 1.7, but there hasn't been any property selling over 1.8, not a single property in the last 14 days. Tons of properties selling under $1 million. But when you get to that $1 million price point, it gets to be critical. And of course, we're dealing with interest rates. So that's kind of what's going on there. Wow, that was a lot. Sorry for speaking so fast, but I hope that's been helpful for you. I hope you get out and enjoy this fantastic weather. There's so much going on in Squamish right now, so much going on in BC right now, as far as just fun things to do. Get out there, enjoy it, make the most of it. Don't worry about what's happening in the housing market this weekend. Just go have fun. Again, Simon Hudson here with McDonald Realty. If you ever have any questions, call me at 604-892-8155 or email me at simon@simonhudson.ca, or put some comments down below, subscribe to the channel, and let's see if I can help you understand what's going on in the market a little bit better than you maybe already do now. Thanks very much, guys. Have a fantastic day.